I always laugh when somebody says, keep the politics out of my entertainment or keep it out of my sports. Unless I agree with it, then obviously it's all good. Like you see that dumb shit with the national anthem protest from Colin Kaepernick or others, like the old shut up and dribble line. But if Nick Bosa is wearing a MAGA hat, it's perfectly fucking fine. Like, it's fucking hypocritical, but society, the world, is full of hypocrisy, right? Here's the thing, though. When it comes to politics, professional wrestling has always played off of politics. At least it did in the past. And did it pretty well, pretty effectively. You know, because wrestling at the end of the day is a morality play. It's about good versus evil. It's how a Fritz von Erich, you know, portraying basically a Nazi, if not an official Nazi, a like quasi-Nazi, you know, became such a successful villain. Baron von Raschke portraying a German. You know, post-World War II, how many Japanese wrestlers and managers were portrayed as heels because it matched the political environment and climates of the time. You go back especially to the 70s and 80s, the height of the frickin' Cold War. You've got Nikolai Volkov and the Iron Sheik, right? Like, that was pretty fucking political. And then you would have guys like Sergeant Slaughter and Hacksaw Jim Duggan. Hulk Hogan certainly was a political, all-American good guy type of character. You could go on and on and on. So the whole notion of, well, keep politics out of my professional wrestling is kind of dumb on the surface, because wrestling for generations has been built on politics being involved in wrestling, and that's what could make shit really good. Because wrestling is at its best when it's relatable. Wrestling is at its best when it is either mirroring pop culture or in some way setting pop culture, right? Like, politics is a thing we deal with every day in our lives. It's actually kind of weird that in the modern wrestling sense, you don't get very much of that. Sure, you get the occasional thing about like LGBTQ plus rights, but it's just not the same, if you get what I'm saying. So apparently, and admittedly, it took me a little bit to really understand what was such a big deal about this. Jaida Parker, who's in NXT or whatever, liked the tweet that was talking about the House looking to pass a bill to ban biological men from participating in women's sports. And as you can imagine, as this kind of one of these third rail of politics types of issues does, it got everybody chattering and everybody had a fucking opinion. You know, it's one of these almost opinions are like assholes, everybody has one and they all stink kind of things, right? And it's just, oh my God. Like, this is where we're at. Like, you got people ranting and raving, calling her a transphobe and calling her this and calling her that. And you've got other people that are rushing to her defense because it validates in some ways their own deeper seated and much more deeply rooted bigotry. Like, what the fuck? You know, here you go, right? Cis white males gonna try and tell women how they should feel about this. Yeah, I could sit there and say, like, why do so many men have a fucking opinion on this? Because at the end of the day, you would think, if anything, biological males playing in women's sports, in female sports, would be something that would be up to females to decide if that is okay or not, right? But you got to realize, you know, the kind of climate and disinformation climate that we're in, and the stupidity that is abound here. And just the lack of basic grasp of reality and how stupid all of this fucking is. First, what percentage of biologically born males are actually trying to play in female sports? The unnecessary outrage about all of this is fucking ridiculous. People continuing to get plowed economically, having a hell of a time affording their rent, their groceries, and every goddamn thing else. And we're talking about this wedge, insignificant fucking issue. Oh, it's a big fucking deal. No, the fuck it isn't. Shut up. Same people that are saying that are the same people that vote for a guy that's going to sit there and try and raise fucking tariffs, and that's somehow going to lower fucking prices, even though tariffs historically do the exact fucking opposite? The hell is wrong with you? Yeah, this is a good reason we should keep politics out of wrestling and sports and everything else, because nobody knows what the fuck they're talking about, and they don't care. Like, what the fuck, man? It's the same people doing all this shit that'll try and sit there and say, there are only two genders. No, there aren't. There just isn't. There's technically not even two sexes. Like, you hate to even get into this argument with people that can't understand a clear distinction between biological sex and gender identity. Biological sex is biological. Gender identity is a fucking social construct, you goddamn idiots. And maybe this is the video that pisses everybody off good, because everybody should be pissed off for how stupid they're acting about this shit. You got male, female, intersex. Okay, now you got three sexes. What the fuck are you doing here? And you got so many different gender identities because, again, they're social fucking constructs. No, you don't have two fucking genders. That's not how any of this shit works. So to sit there and rant and rave and rage about this, as many people that sit there and talk about this all the time, it's just unhealthy. There are so many more important fucking things to worry about. Unbelievable. To the then people that are sitting there and saying, well, Jaida Parker's a transphobe because of this. So let me get this straight. She's a transphobe because she happens to think that biological males that are transgender, non-binary, whatever gender identity they may have, should not be participating in women's sports and female sports because of potential biological advantages. That's transphobia? And to me, transphobia would be something like saying trans people aren't humans, trans people aren't real, trans people should be wiped out, like those types of horrible takes, right? Like, that's transphobia. I don't want to be around somebody that's trans. Fucking this and you know what I mean? Like, that's transphobia. Sitting there and saying, hey, I have a problem with maybe a guy that's like 6'3", 230 pounds, who also happens to identify as female, therefore being transgender, participating in women's sports against women that are 6 to 7 inches smaller and 60 to 70 pounds lighter. I have a problem with that. And apparently people have a fucking problem with that. Like, how can we get so disconnected from fucking reality here? Like, you look at male sports versus female sports. How many females do you think in the WNBA can play in the NBA? The answer is none. Probably the only one that would ever have a shot of doing anything at all would be Caitlin Clark. But that's only from a sense of she would eventually be able to jack up some bullshit for 30 plus feet away because nobody would defend her, and she'd hit one or two of them. But then she'd come down on the defensive side and she would get absolutely decimated. Like, this whole notion of men and women can do the same fucking things. No, they fucking can't. And that's okay. Men do some things better, women do some things better. This whole notion is fucking stupid. So to sit there and go to these lengths and rage because a female, a woman, if you will, said that she doesn't like this and that she's okay with trying to outlaw this, again, I want to be very clear, very statistically insignificant occurrence. So fucking be it. What happened to people being able to just mind their own fucking business? What happened to people actually having some form of informed, educated, well thought out takes? That's all I've seen the past couple of days about this. It's just dumb shit after dumb shit. Yet these same people that are going after a Jaida Parker for liking a tweet are the same ones that'll fucking love January 6ers like the Young Bucks. Oh, I'm lefty, I'm liberal. Yet so many of the wrestlers that you love are fucking conservative. And not even just conservative, like MAGA, Trump, red flows through their blood. Fucking MAGA. And yet you'll still support them. And the reality is, who fucking cares? Frankly, I think the world is a lot better when everybody doesn't think the same. So everybody doesn't have the same perspective. We need some balance. I don't want everybody to think like me. Because if they did, it would be incredibly fucking boring. I like when people think differently than me. I like when people have different perspectives. Because it's fun to try and convert them to mine. Or they try to convert me to theirs. Or sometimes I can just openly mock them for having really idiotic opinions. Such as when somebody says there are only two genders. No, there literally fucking isn't. If that is your opinion is wrong. And yes, opinions can be fucking wrong. If you think, in theory, there isn't an issue with somebody like a Brock Lesnar all of a sudden one day saying, hey, I'm transitioning to be a woman, and he then competes in the women's female portion of UFC, if you don't think there's a fucking inherently competitive disadvantage there, you're a fucking clown and your opinion is wrong and invalid. Like, it's not such a binary one or the other type of fucking thing here. Like what I say here, don't like what I say here, I really don't give a fuck. Trans people are people, they have rights and they deserve to fucking exist, and they should be left the fuck alone, especially if they're not bothering you. People are making way too much shit about trans women, in female sports. It is such, again, an insignificant occurrence. There are so many more important things in this fucking world to be worried about. Well, we're protecting our daughters. Protecting them from what? Give me a fucking break. And a lot of you won't like my political takes here, but again, that's kind of the fucking point, isn't it? Now, if they're being, like, overtly racist or something like that transcends into a different thing. And at that point in time, yeah, they need to get shit. But unless it's like something egregious like that, or they're advocating for child marriage or some like truly despicable thing, just because they have a different worldview than me, they have a different view on economics and tax policy than me. Like, why the fuck should I care about that? I just don't get it. And you know, it's just another good reminder of how lame wrestling has gotten. That people get so uptight and outraged about shit. So many people that claim that they want wrestling to be edgier and more controversial. And yet every time you turn a fucking round, the first time somebody doesn't agree with something, they act like fucking snowflakes. And no, that is not an exclusive claim to liberals or fucking left-wingers. Give me a fucking break. Snowflake behavior is snowflake behavior regardless of political agenda. So yes, I think we should, for the most part, separate the politics from the wrestling. Let these people believe what they want to fucking believe. And if it's not harming anybody, then so fucking be it. If it is harming somebody, then that's different. But Jaida Parker liking a tweet about a law being passed is not harming anybody. It just isn't. And we need to stop being so irrational and overly fucking emotional and butthurt bent out of shape about everything that we don't fucking like. And it's that simple. You could say, well, the First Amendment is about freedom of speech. Yes, it's not freedom from, people responding back, right? But at the end of the day, like, this is what you get. Sometimes you get opinions you don't agree with. Wrestling fans are so fucking stupid. No wonder everybody that's not a wrestling fan looks in and says, God, that's a psycho group of people, because you know what? We fucking are. This is stupid, and the whole argument around this the past couple of days has been moronic.